Nora Lawrenson got up early. Her morning began at 5:30 with a cup of strong tea and silence. The apartment was sparsely furnished, but everything breathed cleanliness and order. She lived alone, as she'd been used to since her parents had died in a car accident 5 years ago. At 26, she worked as a lawyer for Veltec Legal, the most respected law corporation in town, and the most toxic on the inside. The staff was ruthless. If you weren't from a prestigious university, if you didn't have connections or a name, you were a servant, even in a lawyer's office. But Nora didn't give up. She didn't come for friendship. She had come to fight for her profession. That morning, a rumor swept through the office. "There's a new intern coming in today. Some guy. No experience." "Another nephew of someone's mistress," muttered Sabrina Holt, a haughty blonde who had worked tirelessly to build a career on other people's backs. "I don't want us to have to train him while he's pouring coffee." Nora was silent. At that moment, a young man in his 30s entered the building. He was tall, in a modest suit, with a slight unshaven face and attentive, almost analytical eyes. He held himself simply, but somehow different, unusual. His name was Alex. That same morning, Gladys Welton, the CEO's grandmother, came into the building. No one in the office recognized her. She looked like an ordinary cleaning lady in a shabby robe, with a rag and a cart, but her eyes, cold, sharp, snatched every movement. "An AliExpress watch," one of the lawyers hissed as she walked by. You could see she wanted to look upscale. "Old spy," Sabrina giggled. "Probably wants to take the office dishes home with her." Gladys was silent. For now. It was Nora who changed everything. "Stop it," she said. "It's embarrassing. You're lawyers, and you're acting like schoolgirls." As Gladys scrubbed the floors in the hallway, she overheard Nora defending not only her, but also some intern who was being mocked. Later, she whispered, "There she is. The one who isn't afraid." Alex quickly caught her eye. Not by beauty, but by attentiveness. He knew when to speak, when to be quiet. He asked questions that partners usually asked, not interns. Nora was alarmed by that. "Where did you come from?" she asked during a break. "I studied in London. Just got back in town a while ago." "You seem a little too smart for a trainee. And you're too talented for a paralegal," he retorted, and there was no irony in his tone. There was a pause between them. The kind that happens between people who understand each other but aren't ready to admit it. Meanwhile, Sabrina watched. Everything irritated her. The way Alex looked at Nora, the way she smiled back, the way Gladys was lost in the office, like she was sniffing around. "There are too many strangers here," she'd said once. "Some of them aren't who they say they are." She was right. She just didn't know how right. By midweek, Nora and Alex were working on a case. A client was accusing a large construction company of falsifying documents. Nora was handling the case alone, but now, with Alex, it was suddenly easier. His analytics, her passion for detail, together they were a team that was hard to ignore. Gladys watched, more and more, with a smile not visible beneath the wrinkles. At night, leafing through the paperwork, Alex noticed a mistake that could cost Nora her reputation. "You left out a signature. That could play against you in court." She flared up. "I don't make mistakes about things like that." He silently handed her the file. And he was right. Nora lowered her eyes. "Thank you, and I'm sorry." Alex looked at her gently. "You don't always have to be the strong one." After the night shift, they went outside. The city was asleep. She in her coat, he with a coffee glass. By the wall, under a streetlight, Nora suddenly asked, "Why did you come here? To Veltec?" "You could have chosen any other firm." Alex looked up at the stars. "Maybe I wanted to find out what the truth looks like. Not from the cover." They stood in silence. Intimacy, without words. Meanwhile, Sabrina was looking at the photos from the hidden camera in the hallway. One shot. Alex with his cell phone. The Veltec Executive Access logo flashed on the screen. She froze. Alex isn't just an intern. The work week was coming to an end, but the tension in the office was building. especially after Nora had gotten a call to the conference room, ostensibly for an extraordinary case review. She entered warily and saw Sabrina, two other lawyers from her circle, and, surprisingly, Alex. There were documents on the table, and copies of emails. "You know, Nora," Sabrina said sweetly, "we have reason to believe that you're passing information to competitors." Nora turned pale. Alex rose from his seat. "That's absurd. Then why was she using an unauthorized account?" Sabrina raised her eyebrows. "Here are the log files. Also," she pulled out a photo of Nora talking in a coffee shop with a man who worked at another law firm. "A little too friendly, don't you think?" Nora looked at the papers. The signatures, the logins, it all looked convincing. Too much. "It's a forgery," she said without flinching. "You took it out of context and deliberately misrepresented it." "Prove it," Sabrina cut her off, "or you'll be out of the office as early as tomorrow." Alex clenched his fists, but Gladys, standing behind the glass wall with a rag in her hands, glared at Nora. She didn't flinch, only her lips tightened. "If you choose to play dirty," she said calmly, "go ahead, but I won't let you degrade my reputation without a fight." She walked out. Alex rushed after her. He caught up with her on the stairs. "Nora, are you okay? Do you believe me?" He looked into her eyes. "I do." "Then don't say anything else. Help me prove the truth." She walked away, leaving behind a trail of power, fire, and vulnerability. Alex stood there, as if his wings had been clipped. He sensed that soon his lies would become even more dangerous than anyone else's truth. Gladys wasn't considered the legend of the Welton family for nothing. She knew what it was to see hearts through masks. "What's taking you so long?" she asked her grandson when he came to her that evening, once again in the guise of an intern. "I'm afraid. Not that she'll find out who I am, it's that she'll think I used her, and the feeling between us is fake." "Silly boy," she snorted, pouring the tea. "Love isn't a script, it's a choice, and you either tell the truth or you lose everything." The next day, Alex walked into the office without his badge, no files. He stood in the middle of the room and said, "I'm not an intern. My name is Alexander Welton. I'm the CEO of this firm, and I was here to find out who among you lives honestly and who puts on a mask for profit." First, silence, then laughter. Sabrina nodded to someone and mockingly applauded. "Excellent, theatrical, very convincing. I hope you have a lawyer, Alex, because you could be charged with impersonation." Nora stood at the other end of the office, stumped. "You," she exhaled. "Why?" "To find out who you really are," he answered. "I wanted to see if you would fight without knowing who I was." "And you did," she whispered. "But you were lying. You looked me in the eyes and pretended. And I trusted you." She turned away. It wasn't the fact that he was a billionaire that hurt her the most. It was that everything that had happened between them had turned out to be part of the surveillance. "Nora, I've fallen in love with you for real. I'm not a toy, Alex. I'm not part of your experiment." And she walked away, with her head held high. Nora didn't show up for work for 2 days. On the third day, she showed up, no makeup, in a gray suit, with a hard face. She walked in and went straight to the security office. Sabrina was already sitting there, pretending to be an angel. "You have to punish her," she hissed. "She hacked into the system. I'm telling you, she—" Nora interrupted her. "I brought a flash drive. There's proof that the account that was leaked was activated from Sabrina's computer. Here's the video. Here's the network logs. And here's her correspondence with a former employee of our rival firm, all digitally signed." Sabrina went pale. Alex stood against the wall and watched. He knew Nora could handle it, even without him. He found her in the park that evening, in the rain. "You were incredible. I always have been," she said stiffly. "You just didn't see it when you looked at me as a social experiment." He wanted to take her hand, but she pulled away. "Give me some time. Maybe I'll forgive you. Maybe I won't. But know this, I liked you, Not as Welton. I liked you as Alex." She walked away, leaving him with a wet shirt, a hitched breath, and a heaviness in his chest that not a billion could alleviate. Alex didn't give up. Even though Nora was avoiding him, he kept trying to get through to her, not with words, but with deeds. He personally organized a press conference. Under the pretext of updating corporate policy, he gathered the entire office, journalists, and senior partners of the company. But he wasn't talking about laws at all. "A year ago, I decided to disappear from my own corridors," he said into the microphone. "I wanted to understand what it meant to be a nobody in a world where people are judged by status and family name." He looked out into the hall. She was sitting there, in a strict black suit, but with lively eyes. "I saw how people wipe their feet on those who are weaker, how the talented are feared, and how one person can be a light even when rejected. Her name is Nora Lawrenson. She's a lawyer. Honest, smart, and the only one who's never wavered from her principles, even when the whole office was against her, even when I lied to her." Nora froze. "I didn't come here for applause. I came to tell her I'm in love with her, and if she says yes, it will be the best contract of my life." The applause rose, but Nora sat silent. Then she stood up and walked toward the exit. Gladys looked after her and whispered, "She still loves you. She's just afraid of being used again." A week later, the news leaked to the press. Alexander Welton and Nora Lawrenson are together. No one knew who ducked the information. Alex suspected Sabrina, but she had already been fired and her accounts deactivated. He showed up at Nora's house with a simple ring in his pocket. "I'm not going to hide anymore," he said. "I want to be with you. No masks, no distance." "Are you sure? This is more than love. It's a social call. I'm not in your circle, Alex. I'm from nowhere. And I'm tired of being from nowhere. Let's just be together." Nora gave up. She said yes. The wedding was modest, in the backyard of Gladys's mansion. It was simple: candles, checkered tablecloths, live music. Just loved ones. Just the light. But light can't burn without a shadow. The day before the ceremony, Leah Kostner, a glamorous model and Alex's former date, came to the event, tall, with a haughty smile and a folder in her hands. "I have a contract," she said, "signed by your mother. We were supposed to get married. Have you forgotten?" "I don't obey paper," he replied. "And Mom died 3 years ago. But the company could be in danger if you don't honor the agreement. I'll tell the press about the trainee, about the games, about Nora." Gladys came into the room and shut the door sharply. "Darling, you signed a contract with an intermediary agent who is now under investigation. That document is nothing. And your motive is blackmail. And you just got caught." Leah burst into flames. "It's a setup." "No, it's exposed," Gladys replied. "Go away. It's soft for now." Leah left, slamming the door too loudly. The next day, the wedding was held in the open air. Nora walked down the aisle with trembling hands but a steady heart, faith in her eyes. Not in status, not in money. In him. "You didn't choose me for convenience," she whispered at the altar. "You chose me despite the inconvenience. And I will choose you every day," he replied. Gladys held the handkerchief and whispered to herself, "Now we can leave in peace." A month later, there was a family party at the Welton mansion. Gladys had arranged for dinner. No waiters, just the family. "I found an old box," she said, pulling out a dusty scrapbook. "Maybe you could use this, Nora." One of the pictures is of a boy, about 13, beaten up in a school uniform. And next to him, a girl with glasses, sleeves rolled up, signed, "Kyle and Nora, School 27. Nora froze. "That's me?" Alex, formerly Kyle, was also in shock. He'd broken out of the orphanage, changed his name after the accident, and only remembered years later that a farm girl had once protected him from his abusers. "It was you," he whispered. "You protected me when I was nothing. I didn't remember, but my heart did." Nora brushed away a tear. "And you gave me my voice back. when I was about to lose it." They hugged. It was raining outside the window, but there was light in the house. Spring was coming soon, the first time in years that there were no formalities, no officious meetings, no visits from shareholders in the Welton household. Just life. Simple, real life. Nora woke up earlier than usual. Alex was still asleep with his arms around her, as if he didn't want to let her go even in her sleep. She cautiously climbed out from under his arm and went into the kitchen. Gladys was already there, cooking oatmeal, whistling something old-fashioned. "You knew, didn't you?" Nora asked. "About what exactly?" Gladys raised her eyebrows with feigned innocence. "That we'd known each other since we were children, that I was the girl in the picture, that he was that boy." The old woman nodded, slowly, thoughtfully. "I recognized you at once, but my heart told me not to get involved. If they're meant to, they'll find each other on their own." Nora smiled. "Thank you for not stopping me, for not pointing out the difference in our positions." "Nonsense," Gladys snorted. "Real families aren't built on status, but on choice. You chose to be honest, even when you were humiliated. And he chose to be honest when you turned your back. That's more important than a last name." Later that day, in the garden, Alex held Nora's hand. A light breeze ruffled her hair, and he said, "I was afraid that I'd lose you when the truth came out. And I was afraid you'd leave if you found out how stubborn I was." They laughed, and there was depth in the lightness. "We're going to have a baby," she said, almost in a whisper without looking. He froze. Then he squatted down in front of her and put his arm around her waist. "Really?" She nodded, biting her lip. "I'm not afraid now," she whispered. "You taught me that. And you taught me. To be alive, not just an heir." 3 months later, Gladys gathered the whole family together. "I have an official announcement," she said, slapping her spoon on the glass. "I am resigning. As of today, I'm a retired grandmother. You may call me Gladys the Great." "We've always called you that," Alex winked. "Just for one thing. Please don't become the kind of people who forget how a man in a janitor's uniform feels." Nora squeezed his hand. "We won't. We've been in her shoes." The last frame in the story was an old photograph on the office wall. 2, a lawyer in dark clothes and a man in a plain jacket. They're holding hands, and underneath the photo is an engraving. True value is not in a name, but in character. And true love doesn't need costumes. Alex Welton became the head of a company known for humanity, not toughness. He instituted a program to protect young professionals, created a fund to support women in the law, and renamed the law library in Nora's honor. Nora became a symbol of the new wave: smart, independent, honest law. And when their daughter, Livia, walked into the office for the first time holding her mom's hand, the staff rose from their seats, not because they knew whose daughter she was, but because in her eyes was everything that had once changed their company: strength, justice, and love, real love.